you right here on Citizen TV. This is a news review on Power Breakfast with me, Freddie Ndimuli. I'm still in studio with Martha Wangari, MP Gilgil, Jonathan Mweke, former Deputy Governor Nairobi, and Chris Wamalwa, MP Kiminini constituency, looking at the headlines this morning. Before we take a look at this big one on the rate caps, which is on the front page of the Standard, let's take a look at some political headlines. It's on page 2. Highlighted on the first page of the Daily Nation, Muluka spills beans on Raila oathing. Now, it's on page 2, and the other political headline is on the same page. Orange Party forms team to review ties in NASA coalition. This is interesting. ANC's Barack Muluka, that's a member of the ANC party. We do have a member from Ford Kenya, and we have a member from Wiper Party as well, which are the main affiliate parties within NASA coalition. We have no one from ODM. But now ODM has formed a team to review ties in NASA coalition. The Orange Democratic Movement has embarked on the process of reviewing its engagement with other coalition members in the National Super Alliance. Alongside that, we have this story about Barack Muluka, who is the Secretary General of the ANC party, talking about how the other principals in the coalition were duped on that day when that oathing took place. That was January 30th. Muluka sensationally claimed that Mr. Odinga had asked his 3 fellow principals, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula, to switch off their phones and wait for his call using a Nigerian number. And it never happened, and that's why they never showed up for that swearing-in ceremony. Jonathan Mweke, this is a very shaky coalition, the kind of relations that you're having between parties within the coalition. We've discussed this over and over again. The coalition has insisted that you're not going to split, you will stay together. But yes, ODM now says we need to review this, forming a special team to actually review ties within the coalition. There's been talk about that coalition agreement about who will be the NASA presidential candidate come 2022. Is it time just to call it quits and decide, let's do something different?
Well, first of all, you just mentioned that Honorable Raila asked his other co-principals to turn off their phones. And
I'm just reading directly from the newspaper. Yes.
But question that comes to mind is, how do you call somebody whose phone is off?
He was marooned.
Yeah, so I don't know what Mr. Muluka was talking about. But anyway, affairs of the coalition, I'm probably not very competent to speak about.
But you must have an opinion on it.
But my opinion on this is, once you see somebody forming a committee to look into something, then you know that that person is probably running away from making a decision. So the Orange Party, from what I've seen in the press, from how their leaders have been behaving and the statements they've been making, is that they are probably ready to go it alone or form other partners. And this is just something that's going to rubber stamp that decision that's already been made. And then if you look at the other parties, you saw the other day Muluka was on TV, he said something. The other day Halwale was on Jeff Koinange Live, he said something. You've seen Governor of Mombasa write to Kalonzo a letter asking him, you know, Farah Maalim of Wiper is saying all these things about the coalition. And these are deputy party leaders, all of them. And one is a Secretary General who's the spokesman of the party, saying that, wait a minute, all is not well. So that already shows you that there's probably some very serious cracks.
Probably.
I think
there are serious cracks.
And I think the question is not if, I think the question is when this coalition is going to break. Because you can see the messages being sent by very serious leaders of
it's
this.
a question of when, not if.
I think it's a question of when. I think their visions are not aligned anymore, and this must have come off from the swearing in.
Do you still have hope that NASA can still hold for a few more years?
I don't think there's any threat. I want to assure you that, because I'm in the leadership of NASA, and NASA is made of ODM, Wiper, ANC, and Ford Kenya. And I don't see any problem, the ODM to put itself a team in place to evaluate the progress. It is called monitoring and evaluation. And in any marriage, you can't be milk and honey every day with your wife. One time you might come home late, and that does not mean that's the end of the marriage. So what I'm trying to put across is, there's no worry. The coalition is very intact. We are together. As ODM is trying to review, Ford Kenya is also reviewing. Wiper is reviewing. ANC is reviewing. And they are reviewing for purposes of coming up with recommendations to strengthen the coalition. So we should not take it from the negative perspective. So I want to say things are in control. And I don't see any problem. The individuals, whatever they have said, they're entitled to their own opinion. It is not a collective responsibility of the party.
So you, as you speak, it's not your personal opinion, it's about the coalition.
I'm part of the NASA leadership, and I've not seen any crack. If there's any issue, obviously, we as leaders will come sit together. And in any case, when you look at the coalition agreement, it's very clear. If someone wants to move out or whatever, we have those exit clauses.
Talking about that coalition agreement, a lot has been said about the 2022 presidential candidate.
I'll come to that. So I want to assure the NASA fraternity out there that we are very intact. To review a strategy, it is one of the reasons or one of the strategies of strengthening. So we don't have any problem. We are very strong and we are together. Both parties are together. And I want to confirm there's nothing wrong, Wiper to sit somewhere, maybe to review, or ODM, or Ford Kenya, or ANC, is to review and come up with strategies of strengthening.
On that issue of 2022 and
now,
the
on the issue
agreement.
of the exit clause, we are 4 members. And if one party wants to move out, he can be allowed to do, and there's a process to go, and this is in line with the Political Parties Act, where we have pre and post MOUs. And NASA will still remain intact. So it does not mean when one party moves away, NASA dies. No, NASA is there.
Even if ODM wants to move out?
Is there up to the end of the term, and is there to stay.
Martha Wangari, the question I ask, if ODM was to move out of NASA, would there be a need for the rest of the parties to stay together?
You know, in the Muli, I'm listening to my friend Honorable Chris, and sometimes it's even funny, but at least they have admitted that they will stay together to the end of the term, meaning they already recognize the presidency of Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta to the end, and we appreciate that because they are already talking 2022, which means the swearing in they had pushed for is no longer happening. But
that is the end of the term of Parliament.
More importantly, if you're talking cracks, the center cannot hold. It has been an abusive marriage, and people are moving out. You know why? Listen to Sifuna. Recently, Sifuna himself, as the ODM's SG, actually said, we are not going to kneel. We know we are the big brother. We know our space, and we are not going to kneel to get to you. We are not going to lower ourselves to lift you up. And that was to address the Wiper, my friend Ford Kenya, and ANC, minimally ANC. But more important, these issues, we have even seen them in Parliament. When we were doing nomination, no. Omaro, I gave you time. 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 When we were nominating members to the Parliamentary Service Commission, we saw it happen. I mean, the leadership had brought just ODM members, purely, as in do whatever you want to do. And there was an outcry from Wiper, and it was a big issue. And eventually, Wiper got a nominee. And I think they have really been fighting for that space. So it's not even a matter of cracks. The center cannot hold. And it's already done, by the way. It's already done. But more important,
the names that came to Parliament and Parliamentary Service Commission, they were not all of them ODM, with due respect. George Khaniri is not from ODM, he's from ANC.
But I want to say for the National Assembly. For the National Assembly. And I think in the Muli, the issue of NASA holding is no longer tenable. It's already in the public domain. But more importantly is that they've agreed. And you see the stories of Barack Muluka saying, oh, I was marooned. Raila said he was marooned. Others said walivamiwa. You ask them by the military. You see what Halwale said. I mean, it's all hogwash. And I think the good thing is that we have moved on. Yes. And even the opposition has agreed there is a government in place. And we are headed to the right direction.
The coalition leadership insists everything is okay. Are you convinced as a member of NASA?
Well, you know, you cannot second-guess leadership because he sits in those leadership meetings. I don't. So I respect what Mheshimiwa Chris has said. But my thoughts really are then there must be some sort of communication. Because all these different parties is what makes up NASA. NASA is not just amorphous. And if you have secretary generals of these parties, and I don't think my friend Sifuna is excited, I think he's been told the position of the party.
Yes.
And his job as a spokesman is to communicate the position of the party. So if the 4 parties come together and they all agree, we're going to swear in our leader as the people's president, then he goes alone and the other 3 don't go, then there's a very serious communication breakdown, even to the supporters of the party. When all of them now come in and they say, listen, we're going to have this as our leadership in the house, and then somebody else goes through the back door, like, I mean, I don't know, the members of parliament can advise me, but I don't know why a Wiper member who is Honorable Momanyi, was proposed by
The party.
by Jubilee,
Yes.
Eden Duale. I mean, that confused me completely.
Standing
So
orders.
it just shows that there's a very big
I don't think
communication
Duale
breakdown.
proposed.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I need to correct this.
We only
I
supported.
expected His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Nairobi, to know this basic. It's basic. There's no way Honorable Duale can nominate or can propose somebody of. These are pedestrian talks in the streets, and I don't expect you to come on the TV to
So
say
that okay,
that
you'll have
it
to
is.
respond.
Yes, I'll respond to it.
We only supported.
Yeah, they only
Okay.
supported, but Duale cannot
Okay.
come and purport to be the one who did it. You need to know.
I stand corrected, and yes.
But Jubilee
Mheshimiwa
were firmly
Wamalwa,
behind that nomination.
It is Professor
agree.
Kibwana, who is
I
the
am
chairman of WIPA,
Yes.
who wrote a letter to the speaker in the capacity as the chairman of the WIPA party.
Okay.
It was not Duale.
Okay. So I stand to be corrected, and I do admit that I don't know everything, and today I've learned something. So thank you very much for that learning opportunity. But there's a very big communication gap within these four parties, because all their leadership is going out and giving party positions, and I disagree with Mheshimiwa Chris. It will not be personal opinion, because when there are personal opinions, the party comes in to correct and say that was the deputy party leader's personal opinion. The position of the party is A, B, C, D.
By all standards,
But
the
you're not
Secretary General of a party cannot just be giving his personal opinion.
Correct. So when all of these guys start talking differently, what that does is completely confusing the support
Okay.
base of NASA.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
from
think
politics,
there's a problem somewhere.
away from politics, there's this big one, the big headline on the Standard this morning.